So Alpress, as the title says, is a self-governing publication platforms. And this goes along with lots of stuff which was here in the last 2 days. It's a platform where the users are the one that owns it, the ones that governs it, the one that makes decisions. I'm going to start with kind of a bottom line. And the bottom line is that Alpress needs you. We are right now 7 people doing all kinds of things, but we need help because it's a big, tiring project. We need designers, we need artists, we need web developers, we need Rust developers for small things, but if there are Rust developers, we could also extend it because it's awesome. We need political scientists. I mean, maybe it's a strange thing to say, but so many of the things here are not just technology, it's also really organizing kind of a social structure, so we need people who know how to do that. This is not a job offer. We don't have money. We ourselves don't get paid. We hope to change it in the future. And if you join, you can be like part of this process of changing it. But right now you should join if you want to join a project that tries to create like the internet a more democratic space. With a bottom line ahead, I can now go on and start talking about the talk with slow, because 50 minutes, it's a lot of time. Introduction. So my real name is Eyal. I'm from Israel. I've been living in Berlin for 10 years. I go by the nickname Neiman. It's kind of an alter ego that created just 14 years ago when I was a young student. Neiman is the name of the mathematics library in Tel Aviv University. I'm a mathematician. I have a PhD in mathematics, and I do blockchain consultant, and I do a lot, especially in the last few years, open source community projects. You can call me Eyal or Neiman, both name goes. I like the Neiman character. I have a Hebrew blog with this character, like for many years. I made a computer game that you can see like a screenshot from, and with this character, it was weird as hell. I go by both names. I was working on a project called BISC, which is a decentralized exchange on top of Bitcoin. But in the last year plus, I co-founded with a few other friends a project called Almonit. And especially since Corona began, I was working on Almonit full time. So I don't know how was Corona for you. For me, this whole period has been a bit difficult because I was kind of a digital nomad before Corona. I had an apartment where I don't live alone, and it was okay because we were almost never there. We never even noticed it's small. But then Corona began, and the apartment kind of turned into a jail. And all of my friends started to have their nose stick in the computer. Like friends who had nothing to do with internet activity started to have online cooking sessions and online evenings where we all drink together in Zoom, and workshops and yoga and this kind of stuff. And I think that like something very interesting happened in this period, that if there was any doubt before, coronavirus made it clear that digital life is real life. Like this is where we live now. And this observation is kind of important for Alpress project and for what I'm going to talk on, because if digital life is the internet, is just some commercial space like Disneyland, then there is one way that we can accept that it's operated. But if it's real life, suddenly we have a different vision of it, a different which is a bit more in our control and democracy. This is where Alpress project enters. I said the talk I'm going to have 3 chapters. First one, the long one, is Alpress project. We started to work on it when Corona began, and it got sped up with time. Alpress is a self-governing platform. And if it would be like a real talk, I would now go to the audience. So this would be the audience of Simpson people, and would ask them, what is a self-governing platform, and kind of try to engage them. But I can't do it here because the audience is in Discord, and I'm not that multitasking. So I'm going to simulate an audience if it's okay. Okay, so audience, what is self-governing platform? And then one person stands up and says a self-governing platform is a platform which governs itself. And I would be like, okay, that's very literal. I don't think it explains anything. Go back to the audience, anyone else? And another person shows up and he says a self-governing platform is a platform which is controlled by an evil artificial intelligence trying to destroy humankind. To which I say, no, this is a strange place to go to. No, so self-governing platform is a platform which is owned, controlled, and governed by its own users. Alpress is not just a self-governing platform, because a self-governing platform has to do something. Alpress is a self-governing publication platform. So about this project, the easiest way to think is like Medium, where you publish articles, but that Medium belongs to the authors who actually publish the articles. So any decision about changing of editor, about how to monetize it, about which content should and not should be there, is basically decided by the authors. Also looking about it at this perspective, make another benefit, because I was able to explain this thing to my father. And believe me, it's impossible to explain anything to my father. Like, the man makes it a point not to understand anything. And I was able to explain to him what is self-governing publication platform. And the moment that he understood what is it and why we do that, suddenly he also started to accept, maybe for the first time after years, why I'm into all this decentralization thing. Because suddenly decentralization was a tool, not a goal. So in this project, we take this approach. We have a goal, it's the self-governing platform. That's what we want to achieve. There are probably a few different ways to achieve it, but we use decentralization as a tool. And decentralization is also, I think, that even for people who work in this area, like you and all of the audience, when I say decentralization, it's super unclear what I mean by that, because decentralization can be in so many ways. Decentralization is almost like security, like nothing is completely decentralized and nothing mostly is completely centralized. There are all kinds of levels. So comes a question, which tools we use. And this is chapter 1.5. The main tool is dWeb sites. Again, if this would be a talk, live talk, I miss live talks, really. If it would be a live talk, I would go to the audience and ask, what is a dWeb site? dWeb site is kind of a word that Almonit invented. And from the audience, there is always this guy who stands up and says a dWeb site is a website with a D in the beginning. And I was like, okay, thank you. Anyone with a real answer? And then again, the other guy stands up and said, dWeb site is a website which is dynamically control the minds of humans in order to take over the world. And I would be, no, maybe you should seek some help. It's again, a bit strange thing to go to. dWeb site is a decentralized website. It's not a surprise for people in this field who knows dWeb and knows that nowadays when you put D in the beginning of something, it immediately means decentralized. We could have also said that Alpress is a D platform, but at some point we decided to chill with the Ds. This centralized website is a website that connects a decentralized name service and the decentralized storage. And there are many ways to do that. The most classical one is to connect ENS, Ethereum Name Service, and IPFS. I mean, this is obviously right now the most popular choice. This conference has a website which is ENS plus IPFS, which is, by the way, a stunning website. I love the design, and I plan to maybe steal the designer. I'm joking, there's no competition. But it is important to know that ENS and IPFS are not the only choices. Basically, every name system and every decentralized storage could be a D website. You can have stoppable domains in IPFS, and there are many websites of stoppable domains in IPFS. You can have ENS and Swarm, and there are a few websites doing that. Handshake is a project out of the Ethereum ecosphere, which is very nice, and they are connected with Skynet, which is kind of a IPFS clone based on SIA. You can use Namecoin, you can use BitTorrent. There is, each of those combinations gives you some new possibilities and have some cons. And I thought of maybe making some requests in the talk. So one request for the audience, I mean, it's a builder's audience. Experiment with different combination, and especially experiment to see what does the combination gives you that you couldn't get in another combination. Each one of them opens new doors. There is already quite a lot of dWebsite existing, so you can take, you have examples, but it's also quite new and lots of stuff was not investigated. It's really an open area for experiments. Why would somebody have a dWebsite? Which again, that's a question that I handle a lot when I speak with my father. He's like, I try my talks on him, and if he understood, I'm good. So censorship resistance. It's very difficult to censor a P2P network without taking down the intent of a state. It's robust. To take down a DDoS website, you need to DDoS a D website, you need to DDoS the whole P2P network, and it's possible, but it's hard. Private, it's as private as the peer-to-peer network where the website lives on. Sometimes it's actually terrible privacy, but at least it is a different kind of privacy. The interesting thing about privacy is that it's private for the person. It can be private for the person who built the website, not only for the visitors. It has a different advantage that I like to call last mile of decentralization, because historically, dApps had the logic on Ethereum in the centralized way, but the interface was like a regular website. And sometimes you see those dApps who has like a regular centralized website, and you're like, okay, so the owner of the website can basically manipulate the users and change everything, et cetera, et cetera. And I felt this was a bottleneck. So if you take a dApp and connect it to a D website, you kind of decentralize the last mile of dApps. A lot of dApps are doing it nowadays, and I think that nowadays, if you are building a dApp, beginning it now, you should have a good reason not to do that, because I think that this will be the natural way to do that. And the last thing, which is very relevant to Alpress, is that it has complex ownership models. It's not longer that one person or one entity owns the name. You can now have a name which is owned by a DAO. And if the DAO is a community, then it's actually the community who owns the name. In platforms, owning the names is actually almost owning the platform. So this also means that a community can own a platform. And of course, this is exactly the principle that Alpress is based on. Alpress is a D website built on ENS and IPFS, which is owned by a DAO. The DAO will be composed by the users of the platform, and then you have a self-governing platform. In this view, like when I first started to speak with about Alpress with people, lots of them told me, oh, so it's something related to ENS, it's something related to IPFS, but it's not. It's a combination of three technologies: ENS, IPFS, and DAO, or decentralized name, decentralized storage, and DAO. And you can even think about it like as a triangle. You can have a ENS, IPFS, and DAO, and the three of them together gives you a self-governing platform. If you take now the D website and you add a platform, like D website platform pros, then you can actually get another benefit, that suddenly a DAO can have an account on the platform. I think that it was actually in the discussion of the previous talk. I'm not sure, like such thing was mentioned. So a DAO can have an account on the platform. And I think this is something that is needed. DAOs need services. A DAO needs a service where the DAO has an account, not someone from the DAO has an account, because this is a bit less reliable. And with those D website platform, you can have it. In general, taking just a side step away, I think that services for DAOs is something which is going to go up in the future, because I see that DAOs struggle with such things. I always said I have PhD, and my supervisor always told me in every paper that I write that I should also see the problem, also shows the minuses of what I present, because it's so easy to become a salesman and just say this is great. So D websites have cons a lot. It's hard to build. It's hard to build because everything distributed is hard to build, and it's hard to build because there are no great tool and no great experience and no great examples, not that many. It's resource wasteful, like anything P2P on the phone kills the battery. I built like a lot. I mean, we built, or at least my part was built a lot in coffee places before Corona. And the number of coffee places where I dropped the internet by launching IPFS in the last 2 years is quite big. IPFS opens a lot of connections. It's slower. It's not slow, but it is slower. So if you want, if performance for you is really on the millisecond of things, of speed, it may be an issue. And the privacy is misleading, because it really depends on the privacy of the peer-to-peer network. And as I said, many of them has terrible privacy, and actually the user has to make extra steps to keep the privacy. So it has pros, it has cons, but I think it's a promising thing to work on. I'm going to speak a bit more about dWebsites later, because right now, I hope it's understandable what is it as a tool, so I can actually speak about Alpress itself. All right. That's what happens when you make the presentation in the day before. We have a long article about the website. You can check it in our blog. It's blog.almonit.eth.link. You will find it when the article yourself, but this is the direct link which is being shown here. Yeah, and now Alpress platform. And I think the best way to do will be to do a demo. So I'll try to do a demo. Before the demo, I should say that the state of the platform is something between a proof of concept and MVP. It exists, it works, we're already getting feedback from users. It's closed right now, so if you want to be part of the people who give feedback, please send us a message. I mean, we will be able to give you the link and give the feedback, but we want to monitor, because we are taking it down, we're putting it up, all the accounts are going to be deleted. It's on Ethereum testnet. It's also not live, so nothing there is like, something that you should really rely on. And this is the stage where every time that I make a presentation of it, I feel a bit insecure because proof of concept can surprise you. It's supposed to look like a platform, So you come here, you use the login register or connect your wallet. I connect my wallet. I don't think you see the MetaMask pop-ups. And then you choose a name. The name is going to be the name of your account. And all the names are right now not taken because we are in testnet. And afterwards, you choose a pen name. You could choose a picture, but I don't want to do now. And you do some description, and you sign up. Signing up, obviously, is an Ethereum transaction, and I think that you can see it, but right now MetaMask popped and asked me to confirm the transaction. What it means, what happens now is that in the background, the platform was creating like an empty user account for you, putting it on IPFS, using JS IPFS, sending it to MetaMask, asking to register an ENS name for you, and to put this open empty website there. And once it's done, and now it's done, I get to the backstage area of the editors. I open the editor, and I can write some things. I need a picture. I don't know which picture can I take. Damn it, I don't have a picture. So 1 second, sorry. I take a picture of myself. It's a bit embarrassing. Yeah, so you can put, that's way too big. So the camera doesn't love me. You can put a picture, and you can do a whole lot of things, headers. I mean, it's a really cool, simple editor for the beginning. And then you publish, and when you publish, again in the background, the platform is creating an IPFS repository. It puts this repository on IPFS using JS IPFS in the same time as MetaMask to now update my ENS name. It takes a second, but once it's over, basically, it's not registered yet. Testnet is slow today. Once it's over, basically, you can go to this address. This is like TETH is the suffix of testnet Ethereum, so it's something that only for testnet is not real. You can go there, and if everything works properly, now you will go to your blog. It takes a second for the blog to spread in IPFS right now. We can speed things up. Oh, there's no avatar, but you can already see it here. Like there is a post. You can go to the post. And now you can go back to the platform and write another post, which I'm not going to do. It's not supposed, I mean, it's not supposed to impress you by how platformy it is. I mean, it's Medium. It's supposed to impress you by the fact that it's decentralized and it's working and it feels like a platform and it looks like a platform. Okay, I can now go back to the presentation. And this is a builders conference. I am a theoretical mathematician who has been doing programming all of his life, but normally I don't really enjoy speaking the technical parts of programming in lectures. But I thought of it here because of it's a builders project. It should be part of it. So Alpress has two parts. First part is a backend dlog, which is kind of ready. You can use it already for your project, or you can try, and then you will help us to improve it. It's an experimental package for decentralized blogs based on IPFS. But if you fork it, you can extend it for other stuff. We would be thrilled. It's written in TypeScript. It uses JS IPFS to communicate with IPFS networks, and sometimes JS IPFS actually works very well, but because we combine all kind of things, sometimes it has issues. It's a monorepo, but it has 3 packages inside: the dlog itself, the dlog utils, I think it's obvious what it means, and it also has a smart contract that communicates with ENS and makes sure that the blog is written there. For people here who know ENS, it's basically an ENS resolver. We didn't do that much there. We forked ENS resolver, the public one, the official one, and we added and modified some things to, fit it to what we need. It has a few tricks. Oh, first, sorry, you can find the dlog in this GitHub, Almonit dlog. I hope it's there. So it began like it's being on our like one of our the main developer GitHub, and we were supposed to move it this morning. I hope you did it already, but if not, it will be there tonight. We use there a few tricks to do this thing. First, we dynamically create IPFS repositories. It's maybe a bit difficult to explain exactly what it means if you don't know how IPFS is built, but IPFS looks like a file system. It's interplanetary file system, and it looks like a file system where each file, the name is a hash, and the name is given. You cannot change the name of files. So when you build an IPFS repository, you kind of make a folder with all kind of hashes, and you say what is below the other, and we do it dynamically on the client side, and that's one of the main things that we do here. We also use IPFS as a server. Like when the user logs comes to the web, to the platform, they don't fetch more than necessary, but all the time stuff is being fetched from IPFS, which this makes it possible to have like something that really operates like a platform. And the last trick that we do is that if user is very active and they make a lot of articles, but sometimes they're going to have like a lot of all the history of articles. And it may be that if we save it all on the client side, it's going to be too heavy. So we are archiving all the articles. We call it the bucket system. After a while, an article is going back to an archive, and then it just stays there as a link, and the author is only loading the few latest articles. This is the one that they are editing and changing, etc. If the author decides to change, delete, remove something from the archived articles, it's possible, but then there will be a message saying you are now doing operation on the archive. It will take a minute or two because you need to rearrange everything. So that's another trick that we did there. We thought of, sometimes also what we don't use is some kind of explanation. We don't use OrbitDB because maybe we should use it. We were not sure if we need it, and it seems that like you need to have a few IPFS nodes operating it. We don't use Freebox because, again, we didn't have time to dive into it, but it seems that maybe we're not sure really what goes through Freebox and what is completely connected to IPFS, and we want to investigate before using it, or at least get some more info from people. So that's why we really spoke directly with IPFS. I'm pretty sure that if those dWebs, if those D platforms, decentralized platforms will become a thing, the self-governing platforms, you will have a lot of libraries in between. You will not have to do it like we do directly with IPFS and sweat a lot to do that. It will be easier with time. Second part is a front-end. It's a React app. Yesterday, I spoke with a developer who wrote it, the co-founder who wrote it, and I asked him what to say about it, and he was like, it's a React app. Maybe the main thing to say about it is that we create our own editor based on Draft.js framework. You saw how it looks. We don't have experience with creating editors. We have experience with using editors, but creating is a different thing. So you remember my call for contributions. People with experience with creating editors will be super welcomed because there is a lot of theory there and we don't want to reinvent the wheel. Now that we have the technical part aside, we should go for the philosophical part. This completely corresponds to lots of things that have been here in the last 2 days. I mean, I saw decentralized legal identities and I saw decentralized states and everything. And self-governing platform speaks to them with them in the same language, right? We like speaking about the whole self-governing part is a whole lecture. There is a lot of thought that we put into it, and at the same time, it is still work in progress. So things still can be and will be changed because we are in testnet. But in general, we have a few principles that we are following. First of all, the principle that we are following is we are in testnet, so we use DAO stack right now to create a DAO stack. I'm not part of DAO stack, so I feel comfortable to say that we have a very nice product with really nice, well-written code that you can use to make your own DAOs and experiment with it. Then the principle that the self-governing platform Alpress is following is first that it should be users benefit first. And this is an important principle for us because almost all the platforms eventually look for financial benefit first for the owners and not to benefit the users first. And we want to turn it around. One way to do it is basically to just say it's a principle, and when it's a principle, it's something that enters discussions. And the other way is to make sure that you have enough users which are members of the platforms and get a say in what the platform does. And the other next two principles is that users are members. This is obvious. One member equal one vote, which again is super important for us. We don't want anyone to buy their way in to control the platform. Like maybe it will be possible for people who financially support the platform to get a membership. I think it's fine, but eventually they will be just one equal member. And this leads us to our next thing. The platform is supposed to be democratic by the members who are the users, etc. So it's a democratic structure of the internet. And the last one is maybe not obvious. It came personally from me because I find out that sometimes in groups where people are not directly compensated for their creativity or effort, like everyone are compensated equally, then sometimes it happens that people just don't have enough motivation. Sorry, this is the last one. Yeah, compensating individual innovation. So we are kind of want a thing that people will be able to add to the platforms. The platform will be able to add features and to add plugins or whatever to do their own campaigns. And eventually we want them to be able, like if someone is the person who initiated it and did the thinking and the developing and everything, we want because they are members, we want the platform to get a share of it because it's done on the platform, but we also think that they should be able to monetize it mostly to their advantage. And this is done as a way to motivate people and not to be stagnized, but we start from something and then this is what the only thing which is left because you don't have something that motivates people to be super creative. How to become a member? I was speaking so far like how the members, if there are members, how the platform is being actually operated, but how to become a member? And there are a few principles for that. First one, it takes time to become a full member. It's not going to take a day, probably more like a year. And the reason is that we don't want CBD tech. We don't want one person to come and quickly, create like 1,000 accounts and get 1,000 members and then vote on everything and actually control the problem. So it takes time, and there are also several ranks on the way. So it also takes time to become a full member. So you can probably a year or something like this. For the same reason, so if you are a minor member, the rest of the people can see that you're okay. And to fake being a good humanitarian for a year is difficult. Maybe someone can do that, but this will be an exception, and one bad apple will not destroy the platform. And the other thing is that we kind of did a gamification thing for the members, so there are achievements to complete. I don't know, publish 10 articles in a month, support other members because you can basically support an article, etc. Speak about in Twitter, join the community meetings, etc., 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 etc. So we are trying to make it fun. It's not so normal that self-governing platform is not sound like a fun thing. So we are trying to put the fun there. Let's see if it works out. We hope so. So far, our meetings are actually quite fun, I think. And the last chapter, at this point, I just gave up on numbers, as you see, like 1.x, because I was tired. The numbers don't make a difference. Last chapter in this part is the call from the beginning. Join Alpress. We need help. We need you. As I said, we need designers. We need artists urgently. Web developers would help a lot. Rust developers a bit. Political scientists. I mean, you saw the whole self-governing thing. There is a lot to speak. There is a history of movement that this thing is built on. We are not inventing things from scratch. So come to our Twitter. Come to write us an email. In our Twitter, there is also links to our Telegram. We also have a Riot group. Matrix group. I'm a huge Matrix fan. So we have that. You can come there. As I said, it's not a job offer because we don't have money. We don't pay ourselves, but we hope to turn it soon to something which does, makes a living for the people who do that. So you can join in early. It's always good. And this is the end of the first part. And now it's up to before I go to the second part, which is Almonit organization in general, it's shorter, to know if the organizers want to ask a question or to make a 2 minutes break, or should I just go on?
Maybe we can do some questions. It looks like interesting, especially the demo part, because it showed what the product is, what's the idea and the project is, and I found it really interesting. And that there is something that I didn't understand well about the technical part. First of all, thank you for your presentation. And it's
not over yet.
Okay. First of all, partial thank you for your partial presentation.
Thanks.
It's going well.
Yeah. And you say, am I missing something, or you said that you forked the ENS, or?
Okay, yeah, maybe I was really speaking I breathe ENS since more than a year now, so maybe I was speaking a bit too quickly. The way that ENS works, there is ENS, this is a name system. And then when you register a name, the question is, how exactly does this name that you registered function? And the thing that does it is called a resolver. A resolver is something so we forked the resolver of ENS, and we adjusted this to the project.
Okay.
It was not as trivial, by the way, as I said, but basically that's what we did.
Okay. So you have a kind of main domain, and you just create a subdomain for each person, which is
exactly.
Okay, yeah, we did something like that. No, we did exactly the same thing in the DFL lab, because we always fork the resolver and then use the subdomains for every DFL. Okay, so how the articles are indexed in the, so I saw that you went to the resolver of to the subdomain of the user, and the article appear over there.
Right. You're asking in which format it's kept, or how is it?
No.
How does it go from the part of the author to the part of the reader?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so when the author finally published the articles, our dlog library really quickly builds IPFS repository that has this article. The repository right now is super naive. We don't have a database. We built a lot of stuff there just as, the easiest, fastest choice. I'm saying it because the proof of concept / MVP. So the articles are divided into buckets. Each bucket has 10 articles. And when the reader goes to the front page of the offer, the front page loads the first bucket from IPFS. When the author wrote the article and the platform added the article to ENS, it also added what is the address of the first bucket. The reader goes to the platforms, fetches the first bucket from IPFS, and shows there all the articles. Then if the readers will keep scrolling down, if I would add now 20 articles, then when the reader scrolls down, the first bucket knows what is the address of the second bucket. So when you would reach the end, it will go to IPFS, ask for the content of the second bucket, etc., etc.
Okay, but the first bucket is saved into the kind of key value storage on the blockchain or whatever?
No, in the key values on the blockchain, what you have is something that has, like what the reader sees is also a website. So what you have here is the IPFS of the website. Within this repository of IPFS, you have the CID of the first bucket.
Okay. So you saved in the subdomain resolver. You saved the IPFS link of the home page containing this page contains the first CID of the first package.
Exactly.
Exactly. And then the first package contains the CID of the second package and so on. Okay.
So on. And that's why, if somebody now wants to change something in the 10th bucket, we have to rearrange everything. And that's what I say, we have this archive system where if somebody would choose to do that, it will be a message saying, patient, please.
Okay, but this stuff is made just off-chain because
yes.
Only the rearrange on chain is just needed only if you edit the first package, right? Because it's the one linked.
No, if you change anything on the other buckets, you also need to change stuff on chain because the way that IPFS works, if now you took a bucket and you change for even one letter, the bucket now has a new hash.
Okay, yeah.
So all the links has to change, and it's super annoying, of course. But you have to write it. Every change has to be written. There is a scalability question here. So if you write one article a week or even 5 articles a week, it's okay. If you're a person who writes 10 a day, in the current gas prices, it's expensive. But there is an ongoing layer 2 discussion also of ENS, and we are part of it. So we have to see how this develops. Anyway, for the beginning, we want to do one thing well. So we want to do on the mainnet well, and only then speak about that and stuff like this.
Okay, and what if, for example, 2 authors want to write an article together? Like, for example, double written by me and CD?
Yeah. Oh, boy. It's not in the proof of concept. It's not in the proof of concept scope. I mean, it's a great feature. It's a great feature we would have, but I would probably say that not even in the first version to be released on the mainnet. So, we keep it simple for the start.
Okay, sure, of course. No, I was just asking if it is on roadmap or something.
So there is a roadmap. This is actually not there yet, but the roadmap, as happens in such projects, the roadmap changes very often.
Sure.
There is one feature that we want to add, especially because some of the people in the project really like it, and this is the ability that you would be able to donate to an article. Like I write an article saying, kind of like crowdfunding, I write an article saying I need $10 now to write the next article, and when people donate it, I get it. So donate to an article is a feature that we want to have in the beginning. It also goes very well with the fact that this platform eventually works on Ethereum, so you can do such things.
Okay.
Should I go to the second part? Sorry.
Maybe CDI.
I mean, I can wait until
no,
you
I can also reply. You are the moderator.
Okay, sure. You were talking before about the political science and the political philosophy aspect behind the project. And it reminded me a little bit of the secure box platforms that you see on some news websites like the New Yorker or the New York Times or whatever. And it also reminded me of WikiLeaks. And how that can be like a secure platform for people to publish information anonymously and ideally unstoppably. And I'm wondering if Almonit has a use case for that kind of thing, or if it would want to.
It's a good question. I would basically say that our biggest preferences is that the people who use the platform will basically decide the further use cases. We literally don't want to do that for two reasons. First, it will be almost against the philosophy if we say a platform for the users, and then but we have plans in the head. And the other thing is that you probably did a project with 7 people. Each has a different ideas, and a different goal. It could be used for such a thing. In order to be used, so the self-governing part, it's maybe something which is I try to stress, and not always successfully. This platform is not supposed to be completely free speech in the sense that you can just say whatever you want. There is a community. It's meant to be free speech in the way that a country cannot dictate it, and the owner, like a company, cannot dictate it. But eventually, it will be owned by the community, and the community can say what they want and what they don't want. And and it really depends on the character of the community. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious with how things go. I specifically don't like Facebook moderation choices, but other people do. And I would like to be an Alpress with a community that likes my choices. But I hope it will happen. But that's the general reply to that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you're trying to strike a balance between like a free sort of decentralized environment with some level of accountability and moderation.
Yes, we are not trying to build the Wild West. I think that to build the Wild West is already done in the internet. I personally don't always like the result, but it's my personal taste. We also don't like the thing which is controlled by big companies who don't care about us. So we are trying to build a balance, a thing where the people of the platform will decide on the moderation, on the policy. It's really, I'm afraid always to say the word democracy here, because democracy is such a triggered word, and you start to think of so many things in a process. But basically, it's what I have in mind in the self-governing model.
Okay, cool. Thank you for the answer.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
You can go on with your presentation. You're
Thank
free
you.
now.
1 second. So many problems with Firefox with such things sometimes.
No sweat, man.
Your browser has locked the screen. I don't know how to share it again. I may have to disconnect and reconnect. I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's okay.
It is an interesting tool. I like the way it works. Now let's say what's the second part of the presentation say.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Here he is.
Okay. And now it's seems to be working.
Okay.
Great.
There you go.
All right.
Okay, chapter 2, Almonit organization. This is the logo of Almonit, and I'm one of the co-founders of Almonit. It's a project that exists since year plus, I would say a year and a half. It began when a friend of mine came and showed me ENS and IPFS website that he made. The website is still there. His name is Paul Pierregood. He's a good friend of mine, and my eyes were like this because I was trying to make decentralized website for a while now. I looked at ZeroNet, and I tried with SIA, and I tried with Swarm, and I tried all kinds of things, and none of them were to my satisfaction. And then I showed it with ENS and IPFS, and it was working fine. It was working great. And I was caught in his enthusiasm. And then we started to, the first thing that we did was actually checking how many such websites exist, crawling the blockchain, and we found 13. So he is, I think, one of the first 10 dWebsites ever created, which is Respect. And we published it in the ENS forum back then, and we got a discussion with them. And the second thing that we did is we decided to kind of form an organization that does such things, like the decentralized website. In the beginning, naive as we were a year and a half ago, but it feels like 10 years, honestly, we were decentralize all things and this kind of stuff. But then you work, and then we made a project with the slogan "Decentralizing the Internet," which is super vain. And then you work, and you try to explain, especially people, what you do, and you think about what you do. And at some point, you realize that decentralizing is what you do, but maybe it's a bit easier to call it democratizing the internet. And this is not our logo. This is how I call it right now. But this is what I think that Almonit right now is trying to do. It's not less vain, but it's maybe more understandable from people who are not from a really small niche in the internet. Let's address the lion in the room. Why does Almonit has a lion as a logo? And the first reason is that Mozilla has a fox, and we like Mozilla. So and now Mozilla has a fox, we have a lion, and together we have a jungle. And this is a statement because we want the internet to be like a jungle. We want to be rich and diverse, and also sometimes dangerous. But in small places where we try to minimize it, but we think that good thing, creativity, and new stuff are invented in a jungle. And we also feel that especially nowadays, lots of the big actors try to make it into a field, something which is very cultivated and organized, but at the same time maybe also boring and also stop innovation. And the other reason that we have a lion is that Almonit is a word in Hebrew. So I live in Berlin since a decade now, but I'm originally from Israel. Hebrew is my mother tongue, and Almonit is anonymous in Hebrew. So it goes very well with a Vim of the project or privacy. And there is actually a small alley in Tel Aviv. It's called the Almonit alley. Simta Almonit, Simta in Hebrew is alley. And if you enter this small street and you go till the end, there is a statue of a golden lion, and our logo is kind of the painted version of this lion. There is a really interesting story about why this lion is there and why this beautiful building and why there is a alley in Tel Aviv which is called Anonymous, but I don't have time to tell now this story, so Google would be your friend. We did a blockchain extension, browser extension. We did a browser extension for Firefox, Chrome, Brave, etc. It's for the decentralized website. This is kind of my baby, I would say right now. I keep on slowly developing it. Right now, it supports ENS and IPFS. It supports Skynet and ENS. Skynet is, again, a IPFS clone based on SIA, and it supports ENS testnet. So I think especially for developers, you need to use testnet when you develop, and this supports ENS testnet. So I think especially for developers, when we started that, there were no good extensions, but now MetaMask is also doing that quite okay, and Sobel Domain has a very nice, I think, extension for Chrome. Opera, I think, even resolve it natively. Our extension is still there, and we think this is the most decentralized extension for decentralized website. But we are aware that this is an ecosphere which is growing, and we support it. The other thing that we released afterwards, and I think that this is what brought us some fame, is Almonit search engine. It's a decentralized, search engine for decentralized websites. It's a search engine which is the website itself. We did it, and this is I thought this today, when did we release it? And we actually released it this year, just before Corona, but it literally feels to me like 5 years ago. The extension brought us followers, and it was super cool and nice, but the search engine brought us much more. We right now update the index manually which is not great, but that's what we do. And we do it about once a week because it's quite a lot of work, and we also focus on other things. But we all the time update it, and because we update all the time, we see how the sphere grew up super quickly from 13 websites to a few thousands, and it's going to be like more than 10,000 soon. And it's like there's a rapid growth, which makes it a bit difficult also to keep on updating it. But it's super cool. Right now, it's a really diverse website ecosphere. There is a lot of stuff, and most of the websites are good websites. There are interfaces for dApps. There are all kind of cool events like these ones. Personal websites, developers like to experiment. DeFi is obviously very strong there, and lots of DAOs have now a website. By Rule 34, there is also a tiny bit of porn website, but it's such it's like more animated hentai than real porn. So right now, it's not there yet, which makes our life actually a bit easier, I have to say. We did other stuff, but this is the main two projects. We are now maintaining them, and we are very slowly developing, but we are really focusing on Alpress, which is a huge task. So I'm just saying it. Sometimes people ask, why don't we add all these kind of new features to the search engine? We are working, actually, we will add some new things soon, but it's because we focus on something else. And then the last chapter is also, it's dramatic, but it's actually going to be relatively short. The future of the internet, like according to Almonit, maybe, how we see it. So the first thing is we want to have internet of self-governing platforms. I mean, it's maybe a bit strange to say on a stage, but there is not even one such thing, or not that I'm aware, but we think that this is a good model for the internet if it's possible technically. I don't think that the way that the internet is constructed right now is actually sustainable from social point of view. More and more people are getting annoyed by the big tech, and I think it's a matter of time until something loud enough, which will angry people will happen, and already happening stuff. So I don't think it's sustainable, but I'm not sure also what's the alternative. Like there are some people that I read who think maybe the internet will be broke down to 200 nation states internet, which is of course terrible. The internet is global. I mean, there are lots of states, adding all the time rules of the internet, which I'm not a revolutionist. I live in a place, and I like the laws of the place that I live, and I obey to them. But in the internet, I don't feel like an Israeli or German or anything. I feel like a citizen of the internet. And I don't see so much why, if I go to a place of Berlin, I hang out with people who are from the same place, and it's okay that we obey the same rules. But if I go onto the internet, I don't know where you guys are from, yeah? And I don't know if you should obey the rules of the place where I live, or I should obey the rules of the place that you live. For collaboration in the internet, it's really problematic if you want to do it formal. So another thing which people talk about is, internet states, but that's a whole different discussion of futuristic political science. Just to make the point, I think that like self-governing platforms is a possible future of the internet. At least one that I would like, to spend some while checking myself, and that's what I do now. I have a tradition that every talk that I give, I recommend one book. And about the self-governing concept, it was not created in vain, in void. Nothing is being created in void. It builds on other stuff, and one of those things is cooperatives. Sorry. So cooperatives is a movement that began in the 19th century as a reaction to the fact, to the industrial area and capitalism area where big companies were started to form, and poor people find out that they don't have enough capital to actually start a company, and they're but their profession is not relevant anymore. So they gathered what they have to gather and started a company. This was cooperatives. And one of the interesting things that this book does in the beginning is telling the process of it. So there are two things there that especially caught my eye. One of them is that like how many hundred of failed attempts of building cooperatives and designing them happened until a good one appeared. And And then the good one that appeared, I think it's called Rochdale, I'm not sure I pronounce it, or Rochdale Cooperative in 1844, I think. It was like after 30 years of failed experiments. And they started by making simple 10 principles of cooperatives, which they followed, and it helped their cooperative to be the first successful one. And then like a decade later, I think there were like 10,000 cooperatives in the UK or something like that. I may be wrong with the numbers or the dates, but this is the main principle. And if you are into this concept, then this is a good book to read if you want to know the history of the philosophy that we are building on. We are actually going to publish probably next week, not next week, sorry, right after New Year's, like an article, more political science article about self-governing platforms and organizations, which kind of take this concept of cooperatives and, bring it to the future or to the present. That's how we see it. So make sure to visit our blog after the 1st of January or follow, our Twitter, our Telegram. It will be all published there. And the other thing that I want to mention is that if we speak about decentralization, we should aim for decentralization by design. We should have a set of principles for that, because I see in the small corner that we work on how hard it is to make decentralized things. And one example is IPFS gateways. Right now, what we do in our extension is mostly, if you don't run your IPFS client, is mostly to take the ENS name and send it to an IPFS gateway. And IPFS is really relying on having gateways, because on the phone, you cannot have the IPFS client. I don't know how JS IPFS would work on the phone with draining battery, but right now they are relying on the gateways. And it's not only IPFS, it's a thing that like the whole ecosystem is relying on gateways. There are many, many gateways there is a gateway for a dWeb site, which is eth.link, where Skynet has gateways. And the problem that we see that happens here is that not all the gateways are equal. I mean, I don't mean from quality point of view, but I mean from a settings point of view. And then if a developer checks their dWeb site on one gateway and it works there, it doesn't necessarily work on other gateway. And there was actually a while where we threw up a lot of dWeb sites that appeared because we thought that they are not working, so we didn't put them in the search engine. But after a while, I found out that I checked it with the wrong gateway, and they were literally designed in mind with a specific gateway. And then we also don't know what to do, because then if the user uses a different gateway, it would look to the user like it doesn't work. So if there would be here decentralization by design, maybe IPFS would actually create a package for gateways that kind of unifying it. We are trying to do decentralization by design in the project. It's a hard work sometimes. Doing things which are both trying to be private and decentralized is like, swing with handcuffs. It's really difficult, but we are trying. So one of the tricks that we do in our extension is decentralization via randomization. Each time the extension chooses a different random gateway. Not each website, but each session. Each session, every time that you reopen the browser. If our computer scientists or mathematicians in the crowd, this is supposed to guarantee you some kind of decentralization, and there is an exact calculation for how much it guarantees. It's called the balls in a bean problem, so you can go and read about it. It's not a trivial calculation at all, but at least if we do that, we know that we gain something. But as I said, because not all the gateways are equal, then sometimes using a random gateway can be an issue. I think that's it. So thank you for letting me talk for so long. Yeah. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Okay.
Oh.
So I have a couple of questions, because you use most of the time, because for something I'm not sold, basically, and I have some question about, because you use most of the time the word decentralization, okay, and your structure in IPFS is more distributed rather than decentralized, basically, because you have. So, for example, the first question is, you have your version of. Because there is a lot of different visions about this technology, how to use IPFS, how to use things. And so what's your, so for example, how you manage the the versioning and the IPFS structure of the website, for example, and both who manage it and both how do you manage the de facto that people can use old version, or they have to use your last version that you deploy, or stuff like this.
So I think that you had kind of two questions there. One that I say decentralization too much, and ICQ is, as you said.
No. I see. How do you manage the de facto that there are some level of distribution and decentralization at the same time, and how you manage the update of it, and especially the all of the structure, basically.
So do you mean the update of the Alpress always being the platform in the latest version? With the users always...
Yeah.
Okay. So sorry. Yeah, it's a good question. Basically, Alpress.eth is going to be controlled by the Alpress DAO, so by the community. And every time that a new version will be released, the ENS address will be updated. So as long as people keep on using, like accessing via the ENS, I think Alpress.eth, it would always take them to the latest version. It is may well be that people will decide not to to access this way. They are completely free to, stick with an old version. It may create kind of clashes with the rest of the platform. And it is something that we would have to approach when creating it, backward compatibility and making sure that things don't break if people choose not to follow the latest version. Right now, of course, in this MVP, if you choose to use the latest version and we update the ENS, and things will not work.
That's fair, makes sense. Yeah. And so, for example, something that we are building, because you are making all of these things into a DAO. Okay, so you use DAO stack, so you have your own. You will have your own fixed governance inside, so people can do something. Who will control the code of this DAO? So you want to control as a company, you want to control it as a I don't know, a group of people, or what's your thought?
So you mean who will control the DAO code itself?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's undecided yet. We are using now DAO stack in testnet.
Yeah.
We are not sure exactly what will happen with our final version. Maybe we begin with DAO stack and maybe not. It's a good question. Who manages the code of the DAO? Ideally, it would be, the DAO manages itself. So it would be something that deployed, but then to make a change, the DAO has rules how to change the address. But since we don't have such a thing written yet, and I cannot tell that we will do that, this will be my ideal step.
CFO's doing so.
So we should probably look a bit more into what you are doing and speak offline afterwards. But I know how to find you.
Yeah, because we invited some people about DAOs, because it will be very, very easy in the version 0.5 to manage DAOs, basically. And so not just big DAOs like this, but DAOs basically small functions of the entire DApp. And so I hope to see something like this in the future there. And other questions is about, for example, because we had some difficulties with DNS, for example, because we basically you know that we work on to make everything totally on chain and run by anonymous people and so on.
I think that you have a similar spirit to us, yeah.
And so for example, when we made the first version of the FO admin, the 0.1, we have to kind of way to manage ENS. Okay, the first one obviously is to vote to change the IPFS. The IPFS link or so on, and The second one, we, for example, we have some problem with, for example, MetaMask or all of these things that, and they don't maintain the name. So if you want to control, for example, by one name and have some complexities in subdomains, for example, and you want to address all of the subdomains by one domain, so you for example, want to have a more indexed things, it's very difficult and complicated because we got problem, for example, with MetaMask and people that redirect from that because they don't save in the browser. So, for example, if you redirect from, so our approach the first time was to give me a second. I have to find a word to explain this. Was to redirect this subdomain to different version, for example, of a front end of an app or all of these things. And we got some problem with browsers, MetaMask, because they usually direct redirect and they don't maintain the name into the browser and stuff. So have you tried to do something like this, or?
So
because
we have our own extension that redirects, I can tell you which problems we have, and I think MetaMask have the same problem as we do. The browser does not, I mean, the current versions, even of Firefox, doesn't let you to set a name in the address bar. It used to be possible before 2017, but since they switched to extension API to Google, it's not possible anymore. So I think that MetaMask, they redirect because there is nothing else that you can do in the browser right now. And we tried to solve it with adding our own address bar to the browser, but it didn't look so good and it was not so easy to use. Like, we didn't find a good solution for that, and really the only solution for that would be to fork Firefox and change it.
That's a good solution for a lot of things rather than this, because there is a lot of things in MetaMask that can be better. But yeah.
Yeah. If I can already complain a bit, I love Mozilla. I mean, for a long time, Mozilla was really my ideal for how a company data should work. But recently, they kind of blocked almost all extensions on Android. When they changed to the new Firefox, so only the verified extensions are, and there are like 150 of those. We are not big enough. Now they have also promoted extensions. If we pay them, we can be on Android. But I mean, we don't want to be gatewayed by Mozilla, so almost as a principle, we choose not to do that. And it was slightly annoying because we worked hard on the extension, and also we worked hard on the Android version and bringing users, and suddenly in one day it was not there anymore.
Oh, cool.
And also, so what I'm saying is that I don't blame MetaMask for the UI or for their limitations, because extension API is really limited. And it's becoming more and more limited with the time. Google is now going to have a new version of API for extensions, which is even more limited, I think, in January. So I know under which limitations they work. And then the question that you asked, we also, every time that somebody writes the blog, they are redirected to an IPFS, to some gateway, and the IPFS address in this gateway. But we just don't know how to make it better.
The other question is about using for storing article, for example, IPFS. That is obviously the most common classic idea to use IPFS for a lot of things. But how do you manage, for example, so you talked before about the archive or this kind of thing, and how do you manage, for example, the fact that people can don't find in the network the content that they try to.
You mean if the content is unavailable in IPFS?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll describe what happens now and what we are thinking of doing. Right now, with the JS IPFS, it communicates to the IPFS network, and because it is small, there are not many articles, then it seems to be available, not so quickly, but available. In the future, we plan one of two things. One, Alpress itself as a platform would offer a service that if you're a member, the platform would pin the content. So the IPFS the Almonit IPFS nodes would pin the content and make sure it's available. Or if somebody doesn't want us to do that, it would have to be the user's responsibility to make sure that there is always one IPFS node that's pinning the code. The users can run it at their home. But in general, you are right. It has to be available in the network by at least one node. We are planning to offer it as a service. I'm not sure if paid or not. Maybe it will just be a service for the members of Alpress. But if somebody for some reason don't want it, they can also do it themselves.
I think that that's a point of kind of usually by the idea to offer something like this, I think is not a real solution because if you die and you're the project and not you obviously if the project die and so you lost everything in that case. So that's not a real solution. I think the second one makes more sense in the idea that okay, you have your own because we tested before the FAO or during the R&D, we tested, for example, the idea to put some data on chain, and for article it's not so cost effective as you can see. So.
You can do another thing, which I didn't say it because we don't do it now because we try to focus on one part of the project. But first thing, there are pinning services that you can just use, like Pinata, Temporal, dWeb website. But otherwise, IPFS just released, file coin like a month ago, which is supposed to do exactly that. You're supposed to pay them for pinning services. If you take the website to a different architecture like Skynet and ENS, which we support in our extension, Skynet is built on SIA, which means that all the content there you pay and you know for how long it's being actually stored. So you can even do it for 100 years. So integration with such things would be natural in the future.
So, but my assumption is that, for example, the Web3, the web on Ethereum, is based on the fact that you deploy code and basically people, the code is there and the things are there and basically people pay when they need to run this code, basically. Right. So the idea to pay for space in terms of, project or in terms of things is kind of like more based on the Web 2 dynamics rather than the Web 3 dynamics in my personal ideas. I think I don't know. I'm just waiting that someone put out something better.
So in general, someone has to store it. And I think the Web 3 gives you a possibility to store it. You're not forced to use anything. You can always make sure store it on your computer and pin it. But it doesn't mean that you are not allowed to use a blockchain service like FileChain. No?
Yeah, but for example, if I write an article, this is just an example, and I have the needs, and so this article is important for me. That can be something like for political things or for economical things or for everything. Okay, I think it's more fair to, for example, say that this user that want to be sure that this article is stored, it's better to transact it on chain or the text, not the image or these things. So I think it's fairer because the money you spend in chain is depend of your needs, okay, to do things or what's your point.
I think that maybe where we have a different view, I don't see a chain as a mutable thing which is going to be there forever. I mean, I don't know if Ethereum blockchain, the whole history, is an immutable thing which is going to be there forever. If I assume that, I can also at the same time assume that Filecoin is going to be there forever. it is like every peer-to-peer network depends on miners and structure, etc.
Yeah, sure.
It can be that the community decides to prone
you
a lot of the nodes. Sorry?
When you transact on chain, obviously, I'm not the guy saying that the chain is staying there forever or these things, but you reduce the risks to lose this contact. I mean,
how is it different when if you use Filecoin to store it? Because
because you have
is
to
like
pay,
a blockchain.
because if you have to pay to maintain this content, it's the same to put this content in S3, Amazon, or stuff. So,
but you also pay for blockchain transactions. So you mean you have to pay once in blockchain
people
transactions forever?
People that want to interact with this code paid, but not you as creator or owner pay. That's the main my assumption, my basic assumption. Why I'm
maybe I didn't follow exactly. You want to put the whole article. You describe a situation where the whole article is on the blockchain.
I mean, if I am a user,
who paid for it?
Yeah, okay, but you pay for the storage one time, not for the maintaining time. So that's different.
Okay. Yes. But then I think that, as you said, it's not economical to do it. It's quite expensive, and for small short articles you can do it. If you start to have a lot of articles, if this would be a solution which is economical, then Filecoin themselves would do that. But they don't, because for big amount of data is not. And if everyone would start to store huge articles on Ethereum, which I'm not even sure, no, I don't think it's possible if it's become popular, but if it will be, probably Ethereum will change the rules to make it impossible, because the blockchain will get completely clogged.
I mean, yeah, that's not, I mean, the blockchain is based on the factor that the chain transact every blocks, the chain transact the same amount of bytes. So if all blocks, so it's not a problem for the chain if someone uses in this case. So, but I mean, so that's, sorry for a different perspective.
No. I'm happy for that perspective.
Talk and to have different opinions about this, because when we started to work on top of Ethereum, we are totally I don't know how to say, obsessed about the fact to have totally not stoppable and not owned by external things, applications and data and all of these things. So that's why and in the reality, I think that your usage of IPFS, it's very cool. It's very a cool level of knowledge about how IPFS works. And so that's why I made this kind of question that maybe.
So I should say, I'm an Israeli. I'm not used for people agreeing with me. Everyone in Israel always argue. I know everyone in Israel always argue with you. So I like this approach, and I completely support it. I have to say, it's cool. I mean, still my view is that storing article on Ethereum is something that's possible only if very few amount of people do it, and they don't do it very often. I think that if it will become a thing, yes, but we want Alpress to become
their own.
Lots of people use.
I mean, at their own choice. So if you want to, so for example, we store code, okay, because you know that DFOs are about execute code, okay, and deploy code and vote to add functionality and vote to add everything, okay. So we store code on IPFS, for example, but you have the double choice. So if you know that IPFS or something can be forgotten, okay, in this case, or if you think that your proposal and something have another level of security, another level of security that this will not forgotten, and pay to put the data on chain. So I think that's more fair, I think, than.
I mean, I'm not against the idea. If time goes and we'll see that people do it and it's possible, we can also implement it in the system. So it's not contradicting what we do. It's not a feature there right now, and I would need to see some more evidence to see that it's really possible. But also, I'm not making all the decisions in the project, so maybe other people will want it. But it is a possibility. So definitely.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Some other questions?
I'm okay.
It was good to observe that exchange. It was
It was very interesting for me.
captivating. Yeah.
So maybe I will even try to continue it offline after you are relaxed from the conference, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah. So it was my pleasure, to come here. It changed my days, and my days mostly look the same right now. So it was a good change.
And so,
Thanks to you.
you said before another thing.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you very much. It was a good, really, really good presentation.
I have another question. So,
Sure.
You said before about the contents. Okay, so, so how you manage the because you said that people can choose what kind of contents they want or something like this. So how will you manage this choose? So you may before the publication or after the publication? So what?
No, after. After, that's one thing, and B, eventually the community can also decide, would be able to decide to just block a writer if they don't like, if they really hate them, but this should be an extreme case. How it's going to be, I can tell you how it will be in the first version, but I cannot tell you how it will be in 1 year from now, because we really want to see what people want. The first version, the DAO would kind of elect moderators, let's say 3 moderators. Those moderators would have the power to actually moderate, so remove articles. So it will be only removing articles, nothing more. Always the person could have an appeal and go to the DAO and ask for the whole community would decide on such a thing, which I think should be super rare in the beginning. And to remove an offer, it will probably be something, because it's supposed to be an extreme thing, it will probably be something that the community does for the beginning. So it's a bit like, community chooses representatives. Representatives have to do that because it is unreasonable for the DAO to now start to moderate each article and each simple things, because lots of things are just, I think, would be super obvious they're not supposed to be there. So it will be like, people chosen by the DAO, and then you can always go to the community itself and ask to reverse the decision. This is the starting point.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, better than Facebook.
It's better than Facebook because the community does it. And it's also, I don't know where would people take it. I hope to be surprised.
Yeah, makes sense, totally. And so, yeah, I don't like how Facebook manage these things, or how big tech right now manage these things, because it's kind of becoming so boring.
From this. Yeah. If I can ask a question, how do you pronounce your name, your nickname?
I don't know, because Aletoski is the way I pronounce it, but some people are pronouncing it Aletoshi. So as you wish. Aletoshi that sounds cooler.
So Aletoshi, okay, good to know. I was curious.
Aletoshi Nakamoto.
No.
Nakamoto. Oh, he's Satoshi. Thank you. For...
Yeah, that should be cool, because that sounds that I had a lot of Bitcoin.
It should be cool. Not should be cool to say an official place where government can ask you for the tax. I'm joking.
A live stream, maybe.